Hello, I'm Kads, and welcome to today's video. So as the title suggests, I think I might be the only player in the game who has some shards left to be pulling for this weekend. And that is, of course, what we're going to be doing in this video, because, of course, it is 2x Sacreds, but I do have some other reasons for doing this as well. But first, since we're halfway through November, I did want to mention once again that I am supporting the Movember campaign, hence the lovely mustache here that is finally coming in after 2 weeks of ridiculously slow growth. This is just a reminder that this entire month is effectively a fundraiser towards Movember. If you would like to see what that organization stands for, you can check out the link in the description box down below. But I will be donating $1 for every subscriber gained for the entire month of Movember. And so far, we're at 50 gained for the month. So about halfway through, 50 so far. So roughly 100-ish, or at least we're on track for $100 for the month. So that's pretty good. That's about on par for where I usually end up at the end of Movember. This is the third time, believe it or not, that I've done this on the channel. But anyways, the point is there's no pressure for you guys to donate on my behalf. I'm doing that donation for you, and all you have to do if you're enjoying the content on the channel is hit that subscribe button down below. One other thing I wanted to mention really quickly before we get into today's festivities is that I got extremely lucky in the soul summon pool that kind of in hindsight made my call on the Swordmaster's Path the right one. So a little bit of a spoiler there, but if we come over to the soul collection, we can see that we have acquired a 3-star, let me not sell that, but a 3-star soul for Leonardo. So I got extremely lucky in that soul summon pool from the first challenge tournament. I think it was Dark Elves in Fire Knight, and yeah, that's pretty much as good as it could have gone within reason. Obviously, you know, the 5-star would have been more ideal, but the odds of that were ridiculously slim. So if Leo does end up becoming a super important part of my overall PvP strategy, then getting him from the 3-star to the 4-star will be reasonably affordable in terms of these soul coins, which I do have a ton of here, as you can see at the top. So yeah, while I fully acknowledge that this is entirely in hindsight, it was definitely worth it to not spend 20 extra Sacreds in the Swordmaster's Path to get the 5-star soul, because I got the 3-star soul literally a couple of days later. All right, so enough with the lengthy preamble. Let's talk about this particular champion chase. Now, this is a pretty par for the course one, aside from, of course, the Forge Pass relic materials, but this is a non-fusion event, so there's a lot less of an incentive for people to be pulling in general, as you can kind of see with the relatively low starting totals here. Also, it's just 2x Sacred, so it can be relatively costly in terms of pulling a bunch of shards at once. But anyway, as usual, my goal is set on the Legendary Tome here at 4,200 points, and as I hinted at earlier, there is a little bit more of a reason for going for this. So as a basis, or just already, my plan for whatever the next champion chase was to summon Donatello. So I do have him. He's been saved up for a while now, so this is worth 500 points. And so I was kind of waiting for a purpose to use him, and after seeing more, or like kind of dealing a bit more with turtle teams in arena and just seeing more showcases of them, I kind of see the synergy of his passive is kind of like a Freya to a degree, as far as, now it's not an instant turn, but it's, you know, it keeps your nuker alive, and in this case it'd be keeping Leo alive, since I'd be running them together, of course. But just understanding that Donatello plus Leonardo, at least for my account, because I don't have Raphael, is enough of a team that it makes sense for me to kind of run them together. So he's finally summoned. And then as a follow-up to the pulls from the Swordmaster's Path event itself, I did get a duplicate copy of Brugar Jerobim, who is a previous fusion, but of course I never summoned the first version of him because he's a relatively useless champion on my account. So for the sake of getting our first pair of Ogre and Tribes Faction Guardians, which I think is 10% HP, I forget exactly, but we're going to summon the fusion one for an extra 500 points as well. So that starts us off with 1,000 points already in the champion chase. But we're not yet done. I did also do the High Elves Dragon Tournament, so I did get myself this one free air quotes prism shard here, so we're going to summon that one as well. As I mentioned in my free-to-play review of this Elven summon pool, I have all 4 of these legendaries, and I also have Fina, so the only champion who would be helpful or would be unique on my account would be the headline champion in Ziklik, the Dark Elves Faction Unity champion, but 6% chance. Odds are against us, but nonetheless, we'll see. Most likely going to get another epic here. Yep, 250 points, but nonetheless, another 250 points. That means we're at 1,250 for the champion chase. So again, this is part of why I was more inspired to pull. We'll get to a couple other reasons a bit later, but I knew I was going to pull Donatello on the next champion chase because I want to use him with Leonardo as soon as possible. And then Brugar Jerobim was more of a recent change, but just getting the Faction Guardian is useful. We'll do that later as well. And I guess I didn't really talk about the epic, but Visionary, she's not that great of a champion, so there's really not much to say about her, unfortunately. But one last thing is that I do have one Relic Keeper saved up and ready to go, so we're going to fuse one of him as well for another 250 points. So we're basically starting off the champion chase at 1,500 points, so about a third or so of the way towards the goal of the 4,000-ish points. Now, the last bit of logic comes into play here when we're talking about my Mercy. So after the Swordmaster's Path, we are 5 Sacreds towards Mercy, meaning that we are not in Mercy, so we're in that kind of nebulous zone where we're not close to Mercy, not close enough relative to my comfort level relative to POGO events, if there happens to be one in the future, but we're also far enough away that it's still a good chance just to get a legendary from raw odds and or a 2x, which is what's going on right now. So this sets us up nicely for a potential double win scenario where either we just get a legendary today, sweet, we proc it and we reset Mercy, or we get to regain the proximity to Mercy that I lost or sacrificed during the Swordmaster's Path event, which means that we'd be then in position to go for a Sacred POGO if that happens to be in the near term. So with all of those inputs combined, that's why it makes sense for me in my particular situation to be pulling for this weekend, despite a lot of people obviously not having a ton of shards. Now, of course, thanks to my particular shard strategy, I'm not in that position, and that's a great segue to talk about the overall shard count on my account at the moment. So 350 on the Ancients, 190 on the Voids, 72 on the Primals, and then 45 on the Sacred, which of course we'll be dipping into today. Now, because we're starting off this champion chase at 1,500 points, the worst possible outcome to get to the 4,200 would be 11 Sacreds, meaning we get a string of epics the entire way through, which is definitely a possibility. However, I do expect to get at least one legendary just because of how the odds work. But nonetheless, as we talked about, even if we do get the horrendous RNG of that happening with the string of epics, then we're just set up for a Sacred POGO in the near term. So either outcome is acceptable. And of course, by virtue of that, any and all legendaries that we get along the way will reduce the total number of Sacreds that we have to pull to get to the 4,200. So without further ado, let's get right into the shard pools. We've got tons of space, we've got tons of cash, and honestly, we're just looking for some pretty average luck. So, you know, the 1 in 8 chance of getting a legendary is what we're hoping for. So we started off cold with an epic, and it's going to be a Magnar, still objectively the best HP-based epic nuker in the game, specifically on the A2 with the double hitters, or particularly if you set them up without HP burn. So first Sacred down, second Sacred down as well, and we get a Chinoru, who's a pretty trash epic. She's one of the epics that you can get like at the start of the game, which sometimes is good and a lot of times it's bad, and she's the case of a bad one. We have Geomancer, everyone's favorite epic, and what a lot of people say is the best epic in the game, of course, because of his synergy with his passive and the HP burn on the A3. So super solid that, or super solid champion for the general purpose uses in lots of PvE content. 4 Sacreds down here, Morag, Bronzelock, super solid epic who used to be a fusion epic, I believe, many years ago or a couple years ago now, but mini ally attack on her A3 ability on a Fortune Corona, pretty solid there, and the AoE strength in there with the synergy with their passive that can make her counterattack really useful in the faction wars, but also in the Cursed City more so against a lot of Fire Knight stages. I built her for damage and high resistance, and that works relatively well. All epic so far, 2,500 points in the champion chase. Let's keep it going on the way to 4,200. Another epic, and it is Karam, the like single target worst poison exploder in the game. So yeah, that's his kind of claim to fame, air quotes, but definitely not a good champion. Another epic here, Flesh Terror or Snorting Thug. They look the same. Snorting Thug, terrible champion. 3,000 points in the champion chase, so we're on the home stretch here. Let's see if we can bring home that legendary with the odds, and it's another epic, but a good one, decent one. Gorgrab, the kind of a pre-arbiter if you happen to get him early enough with the speed in arena battles, the turn meter fill with increased attack, and then the AoE potential for reviving, although he will use this to heal people if the situation grants it. However, nowadays he gets mostly used in faction wars as your reviver if you don't have the fortune of having a Siphi on your account, and you don't really want to use Grinner, who's the rare, who can also revive, but is definitely not as good. Wow, we're just hitting the bad streak here, I guess. But Gorlas Halamon, the next epic here, AoE decreased defense for the demon spawn. If you don't have Sissy Flame Tongue, is basically your only option. I do use him on my account because I don't have Sissia myself, but yeah, the AoE decreased defense debuffer for the demon spawn faction. 3,500 in the champion chase. Are we gonna hit the bet? No, we are not. Okay, we did get a legendary, and it is a duplicate of Artak, the previous or what? No, I guess he was during the Call of the Arbiter, was it? That mini-series they put out on YouTube, but nonetheless a duplicate for me, another Orc faction guardian. But yeah, Artak, super solid legendary champion, kind of quintessential nowadays for running a hard mode ice golem, but the AoE on the HP burn that can heal him, destroy restores destroyed max HP and or heals him. He can activate a HP burn here on this, but also place decreased attack, which kind of what solidifies his role against hard mode Ice Golem, and then he can extend the duration of HP burn on the A1. All right, so it's official. Mercy has been reset, and that leaves us with only one sacred to go. So we ended up pulling 10 in this particular session. No matter what happens here, yeah, epic, that's fine. We're guaranteed to get to the 4,200. Specifically, it should be 4,300 points. But yeah, another Magnar. We already talked about him. But yeah, all right, well, we'll take it. That is one of the two outcomes that we talked about. Again, like I said, it took till the end, in fairness. But this was the more likely one just because we're already in Mercy at this point, plus the 2x sacreds going on right now. So the odds were pretty high overall that we were going to walk away with at least one legendary. And that did happen to be the case. Let's hop over to the champion chase just to confirm that my math is correct. Hopefully it's updated by now. But yeah, I think I'm correct, and we should be, yes, at the Legendary Tome, and we should be exactly at 4,300 points. Yep, math is confirmed. So sweet. We get some relic fragments as well for the Forge Pass. And yeah, we'll save the energy for a little bit later. But yeah, mission accomplished there. And I guess goal sort of accomplished. But I mean, hey, we walked away with 2 Faction Guardians for the price of 1. I guess that's a win overall. The red dot in the index is, of course, Donatello from the Lizardman Faction Wars. Obviously, I do have Artak, and I do use him in Hardbone Ice Golem. But we'll go ahead and rip the Band-Aid off of that one. But yeah, let's go check out those Faction Guardian changes that we get to make here. So the Ogren Tribes, as we highlighted, we get to add in the first set of them with the duplicate Brugard Jerobums, and then for the Orcs, is that no, it's 6 or it's 8 out of 10, so extra defense across the board. So we're inching ever and ever closer towards 10 out of 10 across all factions. Granted, there's still a decent way to go, especially for Ogren Tribes. Obviously getting, we're just starting with 2 out of 10, but there's a lot of 9s and a fair amount of 8s. Demon Spawn as well as 2 out of 10, but at the moment I do have 3 factions that are 10 out of 10, that being the High Elves, Dark Elves, and Undead Hordes. But yeah, you can see it's kind of a mixed bag, a couple of 9s, couple of 8s, 5s, 2s, and 3s, and so it's kind of all over the place. In terms of who that helps, let's see in the index really quickly. HP in the Ogren Tribes, legendaries, I guess a little bit more survivability on Blizzard the Howler and Stalk the Broken, but they're not like the most used champions, or at least they're used in context where them dying is not really a concern. But nonetheless, hey, extra stats is extra stats. In terms of defense for the Orcs, obviously defense helps Artak survive in the Ice Golem. Tila's a bit tankier, even though she's kind of come out of my Hydra utility. Arn Brago, more defense for him, which is good. That's more damage for my Demon Lord Clan Boss team. And then Packmaster Shaik, a little bit more defense for him as well, a little bit more defense for Ankar. So yeah, extra stats, right? Of course, it can't be hurtful, right? But nonetheless, one step closer to that 10 speed across all legendaries in the faction. So yeah, that's going to do it for today's Shard Pull session. We didn't get anything from the summons directly that is going to be a new champion to build, but of course, Donatello is going to be built in the near term, as well as Leonardo, as well as a couple other champions in the queue. So I have a lot of champions to work on in the meantime. So not getting another new one is not all too that bad in my book. I think you already know the answer for most people to the question I usually ask at this point, which is, are you going to be pulling your shards this weekend? So instead, I'll ask how many sacreds, or leave it in the comment section down below. How many sacreds do you currently have as of today? As always, if you did enjoy the video, then be sure to hit that like button down below. It really does help out the channel. And also feel free to hit the subscribe button down below if and only if you're enjoying the content overall on this channel for more content just like this one in the future. Thanks for watching, and have a good one.